Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. Normally we have a guest. However, tonight it is just Nick and I flying solo because, well, we had a lot of shit pop up that we really have to get done this weekend, especially with the big Kings of War GT we got going on and all that good shit. But we'll cover all that in time. I mean, you're going to be sitting here with us for about roughly an hour, just like normal. And if you choose to skip this episode, well, you're
Fuck
a dick.
you.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, Nick, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm just hoping now people listen to this episode. Otherwise, they're going to be like, oh, they told me to fuck myself, so I'm going to go ahead and not listen. But you know what? This is America, damn it. We'll do what we want.
Well, you know, hey, we got pretty high marks for the last episode.
Yeah, we did. I think it's just because of Chung.
Probably. You know, I mean, Seth said best episode ever. I don't know how far he got in it.
He was drunk.
David Hood said, fuck you. You know, I guess he didn't appreciate, you know, us telling him happy birthday.
Well, you know, that's what we do for, you know, catering to ungrateful fanboys.
I know, right?
So, yeah, to you listeners out there, no more shout-outs. You can all go to hell. But, yeah, so, I mean, we're going to cover a couple of things tonight. So I guess where should we start? Nick, why don't you go ahead and let me know what you kind of have going on?
Oh, man. So right now we're getting ready for our big grand tournament of Kings of War this weekend. I totally don't have my... And before I can get to painting my army, I've got to paint all the buildings that somebody gave me, because after I made all his trees for him and somebody else made all his rocks, he said, I've got lots of work to do here, guys.
Well, I did.
It took him all of like 5 minutes after we left to get done. And then he's like,
shit. I spent the last 3 days doing nothing in that fucking terrain after I got home. I'd wake up early in the morning. I worked out only on Monday. I skipped Tuesday and today in order to try to get shit done.
oh, God.
And even if I came home during lunch, I was prepping shit just to come home and paint it. So that way, by the time my wife got home, she wasn't all pissed off at me for like just destroying the house.
You guys should have seen her face Saturday night as we're sitting there like assembly line building different things. At one point, I set up a painting booth in the corner and I'm painting stuff, and she just looks at this mess and she's like, "So you guys are gonna clean this up, right?"
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
There was foam from one corner to the other.
Yeah, and you know, even today after I got done sweeping everything up, I still was finding foam like that flew underneath the couch and everything else. So it was all over the place. Just insane. But yeah, I mean, in a way though, it's kind of good that we're doing this because, you know, I know, what was it, a couple months ago, we kind of spilled the beans that we were planning on doing our own convention, the Skirmish Supremacy GT, and we are that is in motion for folks that have been kind of wondering and thinking we were just blowing smoke up their ass. The only thing that we're kind of stuck on right now is the location. We have found some. The biggest problem that we're running into, at least from what I've seen so far, is finding a location that's got good hotels nearby to where we don't have to charge you an arm and a leg just to attend the event. I mean, we're not expecting this to like be the Adepticon killer or anything of that sort. If anything, we want it to complement the current tournament scene going on and really give something to the Atlanta area. But we want to do that in a way that's affordable for everybody. We don't want anybody breaking the bank when it comes time to playing in 2 events over the course of a 3-day weekend. Like, to me, that's just, it's not cool.
Yeah, and yeah, no, it's been a little bit crazy. I mean, you know, I don't know, we just trying to get there.
Yeah, it's been kind of a pain. Right now, we're looking between the areas of Marietta and Lawrenceville, which there's a lot of stuff in between, but as far as like ease of access from like either 85 or 75 down here in Atlanta, it's, you know, that's kind of the areas we're looking in that are accessible from even the airport, because I'm trying to accommodate for people that would be flying in. We're even, you know, Kennesaw, which has a college.
Yeah. Yeah, we've looked at a couple places there, and those places are pricey. Probably partly because there is the college there.
Yeah, I mean, there were certain places we were finding. What was that one? We found a room that could actually hold, what was it, 90 tables?
Yeah, it was Embassy Suites there.
Yeah, and then they sent me the total of what it would cost for us to rent that room for 3 days, and I about shit my pants.
Yeah, it's not surprising, unfortunately.
And that's basically just for a room with some tables. So, I mean, keep in mind, folks, like, yes, we talked about doing this. Yes, it's still going to happen. Yes, we're doing everything we possibly can to get this going. However, it's going to take us a little bit of time in order to find the right location, especially for this first year. So, that's a big thing for us. But past that, I mean, the big thing that kind of happened. So this weekend we have the Kings of War 2-day event GT for a little convention that's held at Gigabytes Cafe, one of our sponsors, called GigaCon. And basically, anytime people want to do a mini convention, we just kind of tie it to the GigaCon theme. However, with us kind of working towards the Skirmish Supremacy GT, I decided to go ballsy and take it upon myself to take this thing over for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure we get a format down for one of the games, in this case, Kings of War. And two, it really allowed us to start working on a surplus of terrain that would allow us to cater to these bigger events. So, even though, yes, I've been going absolutely fucking out of my mind these last couple of days getting stuff done, the fact that I've knocked out as much as I have and the fact that Nick is working on so much stuff helps us in the long run. So that way, when we actually get down to doing these conventions, which we plan to do in 2 per year, it will allow us to get everything set up so much quicker.
Definitely. And that's the nice part is, even as I'm like, damn it, this is a lot of stuff to put together and paint. It's, it's like, but I have to do it once. And as long as we treat it nicely, we can use it many more places.
Right. And that's kind of the important key too, is I like having terrain that looks good, but I also like terrain that's functional and clearly represents something in a game. A good example of that, I know I talked a little bit about ATC, even on my side, I don't want to call it a side podcast, but Nick and I each have our own side things that we do in order to generate some content for the channel. In the last Tim's Table Time, I talked about ATC and how there was certain terrain that just does not cater to rank and flank games. Like that middle table I played against Rich Ryder, where I even posted some photos of it online just to show people how stupid it was as far as how it's handled the Crouching Tiger hidden ogres, where all my ogres are like falling 3 inches onto their face. Yeah, I mean, between Rich and I, we're both pretty competitive guys. We've been playing competitive war games for a long time. Him more so in like the big mass battle stuff, me more so on Skirmish. But the fact that we both looked at each other and about second round in, we're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to fight till round 4, and then we're just going to run to the opposite ends of the table, and we're going to go grab a beer. And that was the plan. We did just that. We punched each other in the face as much as possible until the end of round 4. We spent the last 2 rounds just running to the ends of the table, and we called it a draw. Because after a while of like trying to stick our models in the terrain that they had there at ATC, it was just a freaking nightmare. And as cool as certain terrain is, and I don't mind speaking on this because I used to make commission terrain for people in the past. The biggest problem with terrain is that you can make stuff that looks cool, but you got to remember that your models don't have knees and functioning ankles. So
yeah,
if you are not building your stuff to where you could set a model on it without it tipping over, you're doing it wrong. And I know that sounds bad, and I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, that ruins the art of it. You might be right, but at the same time, you got to look at it from a functionality standpoint. If you're doing a diorama or a display piece to where those models are being mounted in there, go ahead, go crazy. But if you're talking for everyday gameplay, you have to make it playable. You have to make it functional. And don't use 2D terrain. I swear to God, if I find out you use 2D terrain, I will find you.
That was a hilarious discussion. Were Were we talking about it at your place the other night? Is that plenty of beers and other liquids flowing around, and I don't even remember what happened, but yeah, and all of a sudden, something about 2D terrain, and Tim almost ripped arms off people to beat them with them. 2D terrain is bad.
It just harkens back to some stuff I remember when I was playing War Machine, where Mike McVeigh wrote an article about, and this is keep in mind, this is going back to like first edition War Machine, Mark 1. He wrote an article at that point because he was one of their lead painters, and he wrote an article in No Quarter that basically talked about the fact that if you are not painting your models, and if you are not playing with like good looking terrain, so keep in mind, I'm going to add a caveat to that. When I say that, all he means is that you're putting forth the effort to paint your models and put terrain on the table. He is not saying by any stretch that you have to be like a golden demon or a crystal brush winner every time you play the game. He's just saying, you know what, three colors on the models, base shade, highlight. If that's all you can manage to do, cool, and put some damn terrain on your table. And he said that if you do not even manage to do that, you are doing nothing but playing an extremely expensive board game. And people lit him up for that, for him stating his opinion about the fact that, look, this is still a miniatures game. What draws people in is the visual spectacle. And I still, to this day, like, call me old school. That's how I feel about it. Like, that's one of the reasons why I have not jumped into Mark III as far as War Machine goes lately, is because I keep seeing these tournaments that are played with 2D terrain. If I wanted to play a fucking board game with miniatures, I would have done so. No, I want to play War Machine, which means that I have painted models and I want good-looking terrain on my table. We are playing a war game. It is a visual spectacle. I do not need to be sitting here putting down some cardboard or vinyl chits to represent a forest. If I want a forest on the table, it's going to be a fucking forest.
Get off my lawn!
Exactly, get off my lawn.
Now that we've had that rant...
It's a good one, and I will go back to it repeatedly. But anyway,
it is a good one, and I'll be honest. Yes, a table that has a lot of terrain, or not even a lot of terrain, but terrain that looks nice, that looks appealing, is definitely a lot more attractive. That's going to draw me into the game just that much more. That's one of the things that GW has done right, out of multiple things other than pricing. And even that's actually not terrible compared to the quality of the models. But no, is that the terrain sets that they've put out still draw you in. They look awesome, they fit the theme, and so you're like, I want to play with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest draw to any miniatures game out there, is the fact that, like, there's that eye candy. I mean, let's face it. Everybody got into a miniatures game because they saw miniatures and went, "Ooh, look!" Looks.
Yeah, they
go buy hundreds of dollars worth of shit.
Yeah, that they look awesome. That they, the game plays well. There's all these things, but yeah, no, it looks cool.
Yes,
we've always or we've said multiple times, the rule of cool. The rule of cool is, hugely important.
Right, and people say that even when, there's always these forum discussions that always happen. Well, how do I pick the army that's right for me? And 90% of the time, the first thing that pops into every single forum is play the army you think looks cool.
Yeah. Or, conversely, play the army whose rules you like, but paint them how you want, and just tell people that, hey, I'm an offshoot of this. Especially in like something like Warhammer, I'm a successor chapter. Boom, done, because there's too many to count,
Yeah, exactly. And again, at the end of the day, it's your damn models. Paint them how you want. But, again, kind of hearkening back to that. And, we talked about it in the past when we talked with Liz Hunt from the Hobby Hangout and whatnot. Nobody at all, unless they're completely conceited dickheads, expects you to come to the table with like these professionally painted models. The only thing people want is to show that you put forth the effort. That's it.
And that's what I'm putting forth probably really late Friday into Saturday morning before the tournament on my army is the effort.
What army are you playing for the Kings of War GT? Because I don't think you've actually told me.
I'm bringing Brotherhood. I'm bringing my knights.
Okay, so you are going with the Kniggets.
I am. Going with the Kniggets.
Come on. Monty Python reference. Get it right here. Man. I don't have to do everything for you, damn it.
Yes, you do. At least that's what you claim. I mean, I'm unpaid, god damn it.
Well, you better pay up, damn it. We got to get this shit done. But just to kind of give everybody a heads up, I am not going to be playing in this event. And the main reason why is because of the fact that
he's scared to lose.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the fact that, if we are going to run a GT, I needed to make sure that the model of tournament that Nick and I are trying to put forward, I can adapt to even a smaller scenario. So by me having a controlled environment like we are with Gigabytes and with what we're doing for GigaCon, that allows me to kind of set the tone for what we want the Skirmish Supremacy GTs to feel like. Kind of going back to when Nick and I talked about it the last time, I really want it to feel like the Major League Gaming of tabletop war games. That's something I've always really pushed for. I really want, like the up-and-comers and, I don't want to call them the stars of the game. Again, we're all like grown-ass men and women playing with small toy soldiers. So, take that for what it's worth. But like, I really want those people that are doing well for either painting or sportsmanship or hobby or, just noted in the communities to be recognized for that. So I'm kind of taking that and importing that into what we're doing this Saturday and Sunday. Just happens to be just with Kings of War. I know we talked quite a bit about the different games that we plan on doing at the SSGT. But I don't think we've actually talked about them on the podcast yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think we have, and
Okay, yeah. Why don't we talk about that a little bit? Because I know that you and I have gone back and forth with it a little bit, just trying to figure out kind of where we want to take it. Obviously, Kings of War is a big one. The community's been fantastic ever since I've been involved with it. I know Nick's been involved with it a little bit here and there. A lot of that kind of goes back to the fact that I do some work with Mantic, so I'm biased. I'm not gonna lie, but kind of going into that too. It's just like I have yet to run into that. Like, everybody calls them win at all cost dicks. I don't call it win at all cost. I mean, anytime you're playing a damn game, you're trying to win. I just don't run into any dicks, I guess is the best way to put it.
You know what? I've played in that. One other tournament that. I've played in one other Kings of War tournament. And, it was real casual, laid back. I mean, yes, we were, everyone was trying to win. But at the same time, if we made a mistake, and I know people were a little bit more forgiving because, it was also one of the first times I played Kings of War. But, you made a mistake and, they're like, you know what, go ahead, you can take that back or whatever, and, it's, there is a certain line, especially when you are, in a bigger tournament, something like GigaCon even, where, it's 2 days, you're playing a lot of games, you don't want to give your opponent too much, but at the same time, you're there to have fun,
right.
And yeah, I haven't encountered too many of them, even when I was playing a lot of 40K with a lot of the ITC people, and with all those rules, there just wasn't a lot of people that were still, we're going to screw you, or, nope, you're done. I mean, granted, if you said, hey, I'm done, and they've started going, and you go, oh, shoot, I wanted to, no, okay, no, your turn is over. But,
yeah.
But, there's a certain, friendliness, and it's gaming. That's what I love about gaming is, I'm there to relax and have fun. Yes, I want to win, but I don't want to win so much so that's my only thing. I like to be immersed in the game. I like to, and I've done it. I was playing this one guy with my Adeptus Mechanicus army, and I had this one guy in the unit left. Somehow he had made his morale rolls, and all his other 9 buddies were just squished. And there was a Wraith Knight. That was the only thing in front of me, and it was one of the Rust Stalkers, I think it was, for Adeptus Mechanicus. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna attack you. And so I, rolled all his hits and all that, and I got one. And it didn't actually end up wounding, but I got the hit. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. And then the guy rolled stomp and squashed my guy. And I was like, you know what though? In my mind, my guy just went, fuck it. He ran up one of your sword blades, like nicked you in the freaking head, came sliding down the other blade, landed, and you went stomp. That is like the greatest narrative right there. That makes it all worth it.
Yeah, there's times where narrative definitely plays a big part. And because you always remember those games that don't exactly go the way they were planned in a tournament, I guess is the best way to put it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that stuff too. And again, like what really comes down to the fun with that is the fact that, you remember what that game was like because of your opponent as well, which is an important factor.
Oh, yeah. And, like I said, I don't remember much else about the game. I know I ended up losing, or we ended up drawing, because I didn't bring anything that really could counter the Wraith Knight to begin with. But I still had fun, and that was the one thing in all the game that I remember. And we've talked about it before. How many games do you remember? How many games that you've won do you remember? How many games this? How many games that? And it's like, but what do you remember? Why do you remember this game? Oh, well, that's because this happened. This really cool or crazy thing happened. I had that one little guy against this Wraith Knight, and he managed to, damage it. Or he managed, he actually took the thing out, or whatever. It gives you that sense of you're in there. It's that, all or nothing roll. It's that one action you do that just makes the game so much more.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that's a good way to put it. It's always that one little thing that makes the game so much more than just like, oh, well, I did this one tactically sound thing that just made sense.
Yeah, and I mean, even those, I maneuvered and I maneuvered well, or, I set him up perfectly.
Yeah, there's that too.
I mean, when you do just out-command the other person, you may or may not remember it. If it's the first time you've ever done it, it's probably going to stick with you. If it's the 50th time you've done it, that one's probably not going to be there as much.
Yeah, after a while, but if you don't learn from your mistakes, then there's clearly something going on.
Right.
But, kind of going back to like this weekend, I decided to take over as the TO in order to allow Robert Brandon, who was the guy that was running it, to play in it for a couple of reasons. One, this is supposed to be part of the Kings of War Southeast Conference events, so they've kind of borrowed a lot from the old Warhammer GTs, where it's like you have the Southeast Conference, you got the Northeast, you've got the Southwest, the Northwest, the Central, like the North Central, South Central. I think there's 6 total regions, but we kind of fall into the Southeast Conference. And because of that, I decided not to play in it for a couple of reasons. One, honestly, I wanted to see how this was going to go for an SSGT. Two, at this point, like I'm so late into the game that even if I were to like go into this one And I even did the math on it. If I were to just go in and absolutely, utterly shit stomp everybody into a paste, I still, at the end of the year, would not matter for rankings. So I was like, you know what? I do want to give this a good old college try. So I'm going to start over again this next year with like doing the GTs and like playing all of them, because so far everybody's been just awesome. And I really want to travel to these different places and just play against everybody. Because I think after this one, we've got Redstone Rumble in October, and I don't even think I can make that one. So I'm just like, screw it. I'll just run this one. Robert, you go ahead and play. You go ahead and get in there and get your points up. So, that's kind of the philosophy that I've taken with this. On top of that, too, I'm sure a lot of you know that listen to the podcast, especially if you're local. I work at Gigabytes. So me taking this over, I guess you could say I feel like I'm doing my job. So with that, it allows me to run the event, kind of step back, help out the rest of the store where it's needed. Even though it's kind of funny, there is absolutely no other wargaming that will be going on that day at the store because we can't fit it.
No, we won't.
We have taken every single table.
Of course, that's like the store this past weekend too.
Yes.
So that was 3 different tournaments. That was crazy.
Yeah, this last weekend was kind of nuts. We ended up having, what the hell was it? It was Armada, Malifaux, War Machine, a Going Away Party, Kids D&D, Pathfinder Society, a Magic the Gathering Dublin PPTQ, and some guys that wanted a dust table set up. By the time you throw all of that into a game store, I don't care how big you are, you have no room left for casual gamers.
Nope. And my oldest is in the kids D&D, so I showed up and I'm like, oh, I guess I can't play anything.
No, you were screwed. Yeah, you were utterly screwed on that. And there's a lot of stuff that happened with that in order to make it go wrong. But, it is what it is. And, it all went great. And again, at this point, we're talking about first world problems. So, I'm not that worried about it.
No, you know what? It was great to see that many people in the store. And honestly, there still was room for casual gaming. Some of the guys set up some mercs at the big round table in the center and played there. And, there was people that found little spots here and there to just get some gaming in. It wasn't terrible, but you definitely weren't planning something big until a little bit later in the afternoon. And that's the other thing that worked out in the favor is that, some of the tournaments, they just didn't have, the same number they normally would. I think the War Machine ended up being 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
So,
it wasn't too big, but it was still enough to where we kind of had to take notice. Oh, and then we had HeroClix walk in too, and they took up a couple of tables.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget those guys, but again, they're not really a miniatures game. So, So yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about the GigaCon GT this weekend. We kind of beaten that horse to death, but kind of wrapping that subject up. We Nick and I have been doing our due diligence in order to try to find a place for the Skirmish Supremacy GT that is affordable for everybody. Because again, we want to try to get as many people coming down to the events as possible, and we don't want it to feel like you need to break the bank in order to do it. Like we're talking 3 days of gaming. Your money should be spent on new stuff, not so much on like hotel and tickets for events and things like that. Now, if you want to go out and spend money on a fancy hotel and you want to go out and spend money on fancy dinners, by all means, that's your choice. Especially being in Atlanta, there's quite a bit of it. Mm-hmm. But we want to make it accessible to everybody.
Definitely. Accessibility is important. I mean, I have one of my friends, actually, he was just on the podcast, Rob, and he keeps trying to get me to come out to War Machine weekend. I tell him the first problem is I don't even play War Machine. So he tells me I need to start playing War Machine. And then the second one is just, it's the cost for the weekend, which, he said all said and done, drinks, hotel room, ticket in and all that, he's run, $400. which isn't terrible for, a weekend out where you're hanging out and having fun, but it's still a cost. It's still one of those things that it's like, ow, that's $400 is a lot of models, or $400 is a bill paid.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in a way it's no different than like Valhalla, which is still going on, just no longer run by Blue Table Painting. And Shannon over at WGC, she's running something similar in Utah. And forgive me for not remembering the name of it, but like I was looking up the price the other day online, and like, so if Dana and I were to go, now keep in mind, it is at a very, very nice, upscale, all-inclusive resort in Utah. So it's not like we're in the middle of a shit shack. For the two of us, it would cost us about $2,000. Now, does that say that it's a bad value? Absolutely not. Can I do it this year? There's no fucking way.
Yeah, well, you just bought a house.
Right. Just bought a house. We got other stuff going on. I got a lot of family that's rolling into town here coming up. Like, my money's invested elsewhere. There's no way I can do that towards a trip like that. Even though I know that Dana might very well enjoy that, like, I'm not going to bank on that. Especially with this next year, we're planning a big, like, group party to an island somewhere in the South, the South Pacific. So we're talking like, going to Cozumel or somewhere, somewhere else like that. Actually, that's not South Pacific. So I just made myself sound like an asshole. Anyway, we're hitting an island, and I'm sure just to make things crazy, because one of the things Dana and I talked about is we're going to invite as many people as possible. I'll probably throw that shit up on the podcast too, just to see how many people actually want to go to like this big island and hang out with everybody.
Right.
So, we're still planning a lot of that, but that's going to be expensive. That's going to be about, we're expecting to spend about $3,000 on that. I'm making it sound like we're made of money. We're really not. Keep in mind, Nick and I make fuck all on this podcast. So.
Wait, you're making money? Because I know I'm not.
On this podcast, absolutely not.
I'm losing money. Not a lot. Nowhere near where Chung is with WGC. I just pay for the website that I need to terribly a lot update.
Yeah, you do, Dick. By the way, Nick's the tech guy, so that all falls on him. Wrong, blame it on Nick.
Speaking of which, the other day Rob was asking something about hosting and things like that, just to a general out to a bunch of people, and I threw a bunch of things, and he's like, "You're my official tech guy." I went, "Son of a bitch."
That's what you get.
That's what I get for trying to be helpful.
Yeah, see what you get for opening your mouth? Stop that shit.
Right? Get sucked into a podcast, get sucked into being the tech guy.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess to wrap that up, Skirmish Supremacy GT is coming along. We got, the Kings of War event this weekend that kind of helps kick that off. Nick's getting some shit built for that. But we wanted to talk about a couple other things tonight. One of them is actually a Kickstarter by my good friends over at Monte Cook Games. And yes, I know I'm a fanboy. Yes, I work with them over at PSI. Yes, this is a shameless plug. Yes, I give no shits what you think about it. But the Invisible Sun RPG has been doing really, really good on Kickstarter. Really, really well. Yes, really, really well. Wow, I sound like an absolute amateur tonight. That's all right. So we
get good, scrub.
Yeah, get good, noob. So we were looking at it earlier. Right now they're at 1,114 backers. They're at about, we're going to call it $313,500. Now, the one thing that I am going to state on this that may be a bit of a dick punch for a lot of people that are in the RPG community out there is the fact that this game is going to retail out of the box. And when I say a box, I mean a black cube at $200 as an RPG.
Ow.
Yeah. And so that sounds like a massive kick in the wiener, and I understand that. However, if you look at everything that they have been pouring into this campaign, so they're doing a lot with it. The Invisible Sun, for those of you that have not looked at it yet, and I definitely recommend that you check it out on Kickstarter. It's actually right now, not to like plug too much of their corporate bullshit, but like Forbes just did a big thing on Kickstarter and gaming. The Invisible Sun was mentioned because of the fact they were impressed by it so much.
So they've got a little animation, and I actually just came across this on the Kickstarter page. There's a little animation that shows them open the cube and all the shit coming out of it. And, it's – I was sitting here as you were going, and I was just like, is it ever going to end? No, apparently it's not.
Yes, there is so much to this game. Now, keep in mind, it is not a cipher system game. So for those of you that remember when we had Charles on from Monte Cook Games, we talked about cipher system and how the cipher system used in Numenera, The Strange, a bit of it in No Thank You Evil, and they've got all this stuff coming out with cipher system. Gods of the Fall just launched. If you haven't picked up Gods of the Fall, go pick that shit up. It's a fantastic game. This is not a cipher system game. This is a totally new concept. So they're blending together a lot of things in this game. So one of the biggest things that's out there right now is Pokemon Go, done by Niantic. The same, and for those of you that aren't aware, Niantic did a game, I want to say 2 years ago now, maybe 3, kind of popping up on 3, called Ingress, where basically it was the same thing as Pokemon Go. It was a geocaching game where you went around and you either played as the Resistance or the Enlightened, and you took over these areas. And it was kind of like a very cyberpunk, we're taking over the world kind of game. And, there's a lot of games out there that are based around geocaching. And what was it, about 5-6 years ago, when the internet really started allowing for a lot more visual manipulation, I guess is a good way to put it, and maybe a little bit longer than that. There was a lot of what they called like altered reality gaming. And Nick, I'm sure you remember some of this stuff where it was like they treated you like you were an investigator on like a murder case. And the people that were doing this altered reality game would actually like post news snippets that were completely false, but they looked real. Right. Photos that, again, completely false, but looked real. Like they hired actors and they did it up. And it was like your job to solve these cases or unlock these clues and mysteries. And there's a lot of that is going into the campaign that they're doing for the Invisible Sun. Right now, there's a Google Plus group to where they're unlocking little secrets here and there, and you're learning the secrets of the Invisible Sun. And so there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes in the game that's so much more than just your typical, me and my buddies are going to sit down and play an RPG. And, I can sit here and babble on and on and on. Definitely check out the Kickstarter page. They talk a lot about it there, but keep in mind, the whole concept behind this right now is the fact there are so many secrets that if you really want to find out about it, you have to go and invest the time.
And it's crazy. I've only seen it today, just a little bit before we started here. But just looking at this, it looks pretty epic.
Yeah, and
though I just got done playing with their pledge calculator. If you pledge at the basic level, so $197, and then you get all the add-ons that they have, and some of these I think I saw would be free if you at different stretch goals or whatever. But so just playing with everything except for I didn't add an additional copy of the game. Your total investment $674.
Yeah, they go a little crazy.
Now, that could be that some of these other levels will give it to you cheaper. But I am entirely amused, and I wonder if it plays into the game or something like that at their pricing, because like their top tier is 5,912, not 6,000, not 5,900, but 5,912.
Without going into too much detail, you might be right on your assumption.
Or, they've got 539. That's the first thing that I thought of when I started seeing these numbers, and I'm like, you know what? I would say that for some reason, this plays into it. And that alone makes me go, I really wish I had $200.
Yes. So, there's a couple things that they're definitely pushing with this. So one is it goes beyond just your typical gaming group. Like it takes it a little bit more worldwide to where your game holds truth that other games have going on. So, one of the things they're doing in this is called a directed campaign, which is basically, they talk about like the black cube, which is something, it's a mysterious object from the invisible sun. And that even though like your game might be taking a different story than say my game or someone's story in New York or Canada or England or wherever, it's all kind of tied together in its own unique way to where like there's an overarching story that's manipulating everything we do. On top of that, they've done a really good job at taking your typical pen and paper RPG and updating it to modern times. So they actually have an Invisible Sun app that allows you to, do a couple of things. Like there's this Sooth deck, which basically the GM uses to manipulate different parts of the game throughout its course. That, again, I don't know a lot about it, so I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm some untold master of everything Invisible Sun. I would be absolutely lying to you. But the idea is that the game will carry outside of just your table session. So one of the things they talk about in the campaign, and they even showed a little bit on some YouTube videos, is that you might gather some secrets during the actual game itself that you might go, something just clicked in my brain, to where you write your GM, right? And you write like a little story via email or Facebook Messenger or Snapchat if you're one of those fucking millennials or whatever. And and your GM at that point has like a little nugget to work off of, to where you guys might meet up at a coffee shop or you might meet up on Skype and talk about that little bit of what you just dealt with that actually now allows you to unlock something that you're doing in an upcoming scenario, just because of the fact that you caught onto a secret that the GM was putting in there. So they do so much to where it's like, the app being web-based will run on your typical web browser. It'll work on your phone, your tablet, your, wherever that, you have a screen and the ability to access the internet. And the fact that they're allowing you to have so much control as a GM as to how the game is played is something that really hasn't been done before. So one of the other cool things about the game too is, let's say, Nick, you and I, we have 3 other people that are playing with us, and I'm GMing the session, right? And let's say you can't be there for a week. You got something going on with your kids, or your wife's in town, and you can't make it. There's actually a game mechanic that is used for you not being there to continue the story going forward. So it's not just somebody takes over your character and does a bunch of shitty things with your character. Because, if we all harken back to D&D, that's always what we did with the guy that couldn't show up that week. He was always the one that checked for traps, even if he never had the skill. He was always the one that jumped in front of the fireballs just because he wasn't there that week. And they kind of took a lot of that out of it and actually made it to where you disappearing from like physically being with us in the session has an effect in the game. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on with it.
It looks awesome. I have nothing more to say. You've pretty much gushed far too much for this podcast.
I have, and again, I understand.
Do you need a couple minutes to go change your shorts?
I might. My shorts shrunk, and I might need a wet nap. But again, just be thankful this isn't a visual podcast. But again, guys, like I understand, I'm a big Monte Cook fanboy. I get that. I've never hidden that fact. However, because of the fact that I like a lot of cerebral games. When it comes time to my RPGs, I like them to be cerebral. I like them to have this feeling that's more than just I have sword, I go kill monster, I roll dice, this happens. This is a game that really, really appeals to me. So I'm definitely excited about it. And if you like cerebral RPGs and you like something that's a little bit more than just your typical dungeon hack and slash, definitely go check this out. And do not let that $197 price tag scare you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if it's an entire game in a box, it's totally worth it. It's, especially from what they're saying and they're talking about, that it's years of commitment right there.
Right.
And then there's other things. I'm trying to think of what it is. Kingdom Death. Kingdom Death is probably one of those games from everything I've seen, heard, read that I really wish I had seen the Kickstarter when it was going on, and I really wish I had dropped all the money I possibly could on it, because the models look good, the game seems awesome.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Kingdom Death is another one to where I can honestly say that I've wanted to play. I have not had the time, and every fucking time I go to pick up that game, it is never available. Adam Poots, if you were listening, I will find you and I will get a copy. But, it was just unfortunately at the time, like when that Kingdom Death Monster Kickstarter came out, I just moved to Georgia. There was no way in hell that I could have dropped $400 on that. If I had the disposable income, I would have in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't have thought twice.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and this once again, with Monte Cook's track record, this looks like it's going to be an epic game. The only thing I have right now is I've got to balance. I've done a lot of wargaming. I've done a decent amount of RPG playing, but which one am I going to do more of in the foreseeable future? And really, with how hectic my schedule has been, the only person who's been on a consistent schedule for gaming is my son. Every other Saturday, he gets to play D&D. I don't even get a gaming schedule like that.
You do not. And, unfortunately for me, the only way I get any consistent games in right now is because of the fact that, I work at a game store and I'm paid to do it.
Yeah, I totally understand. Every time you're like, oh, I got to go to work, I'm like, can I go? Can David, you need to hire me too. To do what? I don't know. I just want to play games. But I already got someone that does that. I don't care.
First world problems. Oh, shit. So, yeah, definitely, folks, go check out the Invisible Sun Kickstarter. Tell your retailers about it as well. I'm gonna push that to the end of days. I understand Kickstarter is a great thing for you to get the product, but you need to let your damn retailers know too. Because
definitely,
if they can get people to buy more, Monte Cook makes more money. The retailers make money. You get more players. You have more access to people. Everybody wins. Tell your goddamn retailers about the Invisible Sun.
Yep. Anywhere you spend a lot of time, you should be spreading the word.
Yes. So I mean that kind of covers the Invisible Sun. I've had my fanboy gush. Not even afraid to admit it. Fanboy gush. Fuck off, it's my podcast. We talked about a little bit about SSGT in the future. We talked a little bit about Kings of War GT this weekend. Nick, is there anything else you want to throw in there, man? I know we only got about 10 minutes left, but we might as well push for it.
You know what? Frostgrave won another award. It won an any award, and wait a second, which best miniature product. So it won silver in that category for the EN awards. So, and that's cool. That makes me really happy. Frostgrave is awesome.
Yeah, we're definitely going to give a big old hand to Joe McCullough on that one. If you guys know him online or you run into him on any of the Frostgrave groups, go out there and give him a big congratulations, because this is, again, a guy that did something that was totally independent, had the passion and the drive, and he went out and he kicked ass, and he needs to be recognized for it.
And he really had. I mean, because not only did he drop the book, got North Star Online to make the miniatures, but he's kept dropping. He's dropped supplements. He's dropped, it's just been nonstop since Frostgrave launched, which, has gotten a little bit pricey, but at the same time, none of them have been bad. None of them are like, I wasted my money. Because the nice part is that, some of them, the little ones and all that, like the Dark Alchemy, it was $5. That the whole expansion, which brought in single player, it also expanded, some of the alchemy stuff that you can do, so it brought a, decent bit of new content to the game, but it was $5. You're going to buy a soda or a coffee somewhere and spend $5. So,
right, exactly.
They have definitely successfully made this game cheap. I mean, a warband ends up being at max 11 guys. So you buy, the box of soldiers and your wizards, you're $40-$50 maybe in, and you've got everything you need to play after the rule book and little updates, and, over time, and they are getting ready for those of you who like the physical book like I do. They are getting ready to release a Frostgrave compendium, which is going to have the digital only releases all put together. So Cell Swords, Dark Alchemy. I can't think of the other ones right now. There's a couple other ones. They're going to bundle them all up together and put it out so that you can buy a physical book.
Which is definitely a good thing. Me personally, I'm one of those guys that floats in between. I always like having the option of digital, but I like having the option of digital if I bought the physical.
Yeah, I like the digital when I'm on the go and I want to read it, or I'm, there's just certain places where, I just don't have the book, but I'm looking something up. I love having a digital copy of stuff, but I love when I'm at the store to have that physical copy, partly because you get familiar with it and you can basically flip it open and go right there, boom, done, move on.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a positive to it. So the fact that he's coming out with a physical compendium of everything that he's released digitally helps, because I know not everybody right now is a big fan of the digital media. But, it is a direction that we're moving in, and it's something to where if you are book focused, it's something that to where you're really going to have to pay attention to coming up in the future. So, I've had to adapt to it. I know a lot of companies out there have had to adapt to it. It's just kind of is what it is.
Yep. It definitely is. So, couple of other little things. I'm getting ready to run Relic Blade and Wild in the Streets demos at Gigabytes.
Yes. You'll be doing that this next weekend, right? During DragonCon weekend.
Yeah, during DragonCon weekend. So I don't know how many people I'm going to get, unfortunately. I think there will still be a few people that show up. I've got to start pushing it a little bit more. Probably invite lots of people to the event and be like, you just want to play.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited. I'm super excited for these games because I know for both of them, this is actually the first time they're in a store that, their products are going to be there.
Yes.
Actually, Wild in the Streets is already in the store.
Yes, and not to toot our own horn, but I'm going to fucking do it anyway. The whole reason, Chris, Sean, if you are listening, the reason why you guys are getting into stores is because of what Nick and I have done for you on this podcast.
Toot toot.
So you're welcome.
And I don't even care about that. I love that aspect because that's just a personal accomplishment. Right, with the podcast. Because I'm a conceited prick. But I love the fact that we were excited about it.
Yes.
Somebody else heard our excitement about it, heard the passion in Sean and Chris, talking about their games, and went, you know what, you guys like it. They have a passion for it. They have a plan for it. I want to bring it in. Right. Let's bring it in. And I'm going to do everything in my power to try and help that. And, I want to do that for everybody. Actually, we have, and it's Gary. I can't think of his last name, but from Purgatory Miniatures.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Purgatory Miniatures. He got in contact with us, and he's getting ready for his Kickstarter. And we sat down and we've talked to him, off and on over the past couple weeks, and the passion he has, the game that he has, everything about it, it makes me excited. Of course, it's angels fighting demons, and that's actually one of the areas that I love. If anyone's ever heard of Sandman Slim novels or Mercury Falls, Rises, I forget what the series is called. It's by Robert Krause. It like plays into that, and they're both relatively comedy, weird sci-fi novels, but they're awesome series, and that's all I can imagine as I read these rules and talk to him that's exactly like what he's bringing. So right. I'm just
there's a lot of tongue in cheek to the game.
Yeah, it seems pretty epic, and yeah, just like when he first started talking, he wasn't talking a lot, and then we started talking about the rule, and he just blew up. He was like, "Oh, and here's all this, here's all these things," and I can't wait till we actually get him on the podcast, which should be coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we got a couple other people that are talking about coming on the podcast too. So I've been talking with the folks from Arena Rex, which is now out in stores. It's actually doing really well, especially locally. Deep Madness, which is if you're a Cthulhu fan, you're gonna love this game. Check out their Facebook page. Right now, they're just showing early concepts, and there's a couple other people we've been talking to, but those are the two that we've been talking to the most recently. And we definitely, again, if you listen to this and you're an independent game developer and you have a solid vision, and when I say that, I mean something that you've already put work into it, not just, hey, I've got this idea, but like you're about ready to launch it, or it's about to go into production in some way and you want to get the word out there. We're more than happy to help you on that.
Oh, definitely. I have no problem, taking stuff, taking and talking about your stuff. I love it. It is exciting. I get excited when you're excited, and I love to share.
Yes.
Why we're on the podcast, even if he doesn't let me talk most of the time.
That's your damn choice.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the now shut the hell up at the beginning of every episode.
Only slightly. It's not the
No.
That's not the crux of the content, but yeah, seriously, you do need to be better about shutting up. But so yeah, we definitely, there's a lot that, even in the short time that we've had the podcast, I know it sounds like we're tooting our own damn horn and you're all having to listen to it, but like, I've definitely noticed an impact that we've had. And to be honest with you, to our listeners and to those that have taken the chance and really talked to us, again, I have to say thank you. Like, our subscriber base has been jumping, our likes have been jumping. There's been so much going on that I can tell that everybody really appreciates what we do. And again, thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I love, and honestly, I laughed my ass off when I got told, and David is a good friend of mine, but when he's like, "Fuck you, Nick," it, of course, friend. So he means it in love, I think and hope. But we've had, there's people we've met. Actually, last night I was on a podcast and I said something about getting ready for GigaCon, and this. So there's one guy who was in the local area on the Hangout. That's what I was on last night, Hangouts. And, he said he was asking some questions. Another guy went, "Oh, is that the one in Florida?" I went, "No, it's the one in Atlanta." And he went, "Oh, yeah, I heard that on a podcast." And then I went, "Did you hear it on Skirmish Supremacy?" He's like, "No, somebody else was talking about it. But I have started listening to Skirmish Supremacy." da 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 da, and I was like, oh, I feel so warm inside. It was kind of awesome to hear that feedback from someone who totally didn't know that I was, one of the people behind Skirmish Supremacy.
Yeah, but to be fair to any folks listening, that warmth that Nick feels inside is usually because of the fact he smokes a lot of crack before he jumps on a hobby hangout. But
I was trying not to go there, but
first step of, solving any problems to admit you have a problem.
I was trying not to admit I have a problem. That was where I was trying not to go. But
all right. So anyway, folks, we will be starting a Patreon soon, and it's all to 100% help Nick get over his crack addiction. So anything that you can help.
I like crack a lot. So I mean, if you just don't actually mail it to me, I don't need that showing up.
No, as a matter of fact, the money gets funneled directly into my account because the last time we ran a Patreon in order to help Nick get over his crack addiction, he went and took the money and spent it on crack. So we had to change up the format a little bit.
There was some hookers involved too.
Yeah, so we do everything we can to avoid it, but I'm very libertarian in that aspect. He's going to do what he's going to do, but at the same time, I got to try to help him out. We got his podcast to run. All right. Well, on that note, so let's wrap everything up here. So we've been talking more about Skirmish Supremacy GT. We got GigaCon Kings of War this weekend. Talked a lot about an Invisible Sun, and I let my fanboy out of the bag again. Again, folks, we're very grateful to everything that you do, and as far as you listening. Again, if you have a product out there that you want to get out there and you want to talk more about, definitely come on the podcast. We have a lot of our listeners that they're totally into that, so it definitely helps out. Nick, is there anything else you want to throw in there before we get underway here?
Nah, I think we've hit everything and kind of beat most of it down.
Yes, we have. So who do we have coming on this next week?
We haven't actually made up our minds yet. Like you said, we've had a couple people that we're talking to. We kind of got to nail that down. Tomorrow.
Yeah, this last couple of weeks with everything going on, obviously I made a post. I don't want to talk about it too much on here, but
understandable.
We had some personal things happen, and we're snapping back from it, and we're getting back on a regular track. But look forward for this weekend. We're probably gonna have some podcast snippets from the Kings of War GT. Nick and I are planning on hitting up DragonCon and talking with some people this next week, where we don't know if it's 100%, it's definitely not 100% yet. We don't know if it can happen, but we're definitely going to make it try. And, we definitely have a lot of guests at this point. There's a lot that want to talk to us. We just have to get everybody scheduled out.
Yeah. And so, with that being said, at being, at least potentially being at DragonCon and whatnot, if you see us, come say hi.
Yes. Definitely.
We definitely like to talk to people, and hear from people. Even if you're like, you know what? That episode where you two sat there and talked, it fucking sucked. Don't do that ever again.
Hey, Skirmish Supremacy, fuck you guys. That's fine. That's still publicity. But
we will make you rage.
Yes. On that note, another hobby Banter. I think this is like the third or fourth one we've done. Check back in with us this next week. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.